They left her bleeding in the dirt. Medic turned into meat, written off before dawn broke. But here's what Command didn't count on. The most lethal thing on any battlefield isn't the soldier with the most kills. It's the one everyone already buried. Lieutenant Mara Vance knew how to save lives. Tourniquets, chest seals, battlefield triage under fire. But when that mortar turned her world white and her own team's boots faded into the dark, leave her. She's gone. Something fundamental rewired in her brain. She woke up alone, abandoned, erased. And she came back holding something she'd never touched before. A rifle. If you want to see how far betrayal can push someone, and what happens when the dead refuse to stay buried, stick with me until the very end. Drop a like and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The explosion didn't sound like the movies. It wasn't a clean boom. It was a pressure wave that crushed the air out of Mara's lungs, a sound that lived in her teeth and spine, that turned her vision into television static. 1 second she was pressing gauze into Corporal Hayes' shredded femoral artery, screaming for him to stay with me. Stay with me! And the next, the world went white. Then nothing. Then pain. Mara's first coherent thought swimming up through black water. I'm alive. Her second, I shouldn't be. She tried to open her eyes. One lid responded. The other felt glued shut, something wet and warm. Blood. Her own. The taste of copper filled her mouth. Her ears rang in a single sustained note, like tinnitus stretched into eternity. She was on her back. Sky above, smoke-choked, orange with reflected fire. The ruins of Black Ridge Outpost painted the clouds in hell colors. Mara tried to move. Her left arm responded. Her right didn't. Panic spiked. Amputation, nerve damage, arterial bleed, but then her fingers twitched. Not gone. Just buried under something. Debris. She turned her head. Mistake. Her skull felt like it was splitting, but she saw bodies. Corporal Hayes, the kid she'd been working on, half his face gone now. Sergeant Okoye, twisted at an angle that meant spinal severance. Private Chen, still clutching his rifle, staring at nothing. Dead. All of them. And me? Mara's training kicked in through the shock. A BC. Airway, breathing, circulation. She could breathe, ragged, painful, but functional. Airway clear. She pressed her left hand to her chest. Sticky. Wet. Her fingers came away black in the firelight. Blood. A lot of it. She tried to assess the wound, but her arm wouldn't cooperate, kept shaking. Shock. She was going into shock. She needed voices. Mara froze. Boot steps. Crunching through rubble. Close. 3 confirmed KIA, possibly more in the rubble. Fall back to Rally Point, Charlie. We're getting shredded out here. American voices. Her people. Relief flooded through her, so intense it felt like warmth. She tried to call out. Her throat produced a wet rasp, barely audible over the ringing in her ears. Help! The word died. Too quiet. She tried again. Here, I'm... Boots appeared in her vision. 2 soldiers, silhouettes against the burning sky. One knelt down near Hayes' body, checked for a pulse. Didn't find one. Moved to Okoye. The other one's light swept over her, stopped. Mara felt the beam on her face, tried to lift her arm, managed a few inches. Here, she croaked. I'm here. The light didn't move. The soldier, she couldn't see his face behind the glare, stood perfectly still. 5 seconds. 10. Then his radio crackled. Bishop, you got survivors? The soldier with the light, Bishop, didn't answer immediately. Mara watched his silhouette, waiting. Her chest felt tight. Breathing hurt. Say again, the radio demanded. Status? Bishop's voice, when it came, was flat, empty. Negative. All KIA. Mara's brain stuttered. What? Copy that. RTB. Double time. Roger. The light moved away. Mara tried to speak. Her voice wouldn't come. She watched Bishop's boots turn, watched him walk away. The other soldier followed. She managed a sound. Not words. Just a broken exhale that might have been a plea. Neither of them looked back. The boot steps faded. Vehicle engines growled to life in the distance. Mara lay in the dirt, her own blood pooling beneath her, and understood with perfect crystalline clarity. They had left her. Not by accident. Not because they didn't see her. They saw. And they walked away. The night swallowed their voices. The vehicles pulled out. The sound of the convoy faded into the dark until all that remained was the crackle of flames and the wet sound of her own breathing. Mara stared at the sky. They left me. The thought kept circling, unable to land. It didn't fit. It didn't make sense. You don't leave wounded. You don't abandon your own. That was the rule, the only rule that mattered. But Bishop had looked at her, had seen her breathing, had called her dead anyway. The pain in her chest wasn't just the wound anymore. She didn't know how long she lay there. Time stopped meaning anything. The fires burned lower. The explosions in the distance, secondary detonations, ammo cooking off, grew sporadic, then stopped. Silence settled over Black Ridge like a burial shroud. Mara's thoughts drifted. Shock, probably. Blood loss. She felt cold despite the heat radiating from the burning buildings. Her vision kept tunneling, narrowing to a pinpoint, then snapping back. I should get up. The thought was distant. Academic. I should move. Find cover. Stop the bleeding. Her body didn't respond to the commands. Just lay there, leaking into the dirt. Somewhere in the dark, something moved. Not human. Animal. Scavengers already circling. That got her moving. Mara rolled onto her side with a grunt that turned into a scream she bit back. Her right arm came free of the debris, a chunk of concrete that had pinned it. Fingers still worked, bones intact. She pressed her left hand to her chest wound, felt the damage. Not arterial, she'd be dead already if it was. But deep. Shrapnel, probably. Multiple fragments. She could feel the edges of torn tissue, the wet heat of exposed muscle. She needed to pack it, pressure dressing, but her kit, her aid bag was gone, torn away in the blast or buried somewhere she couldn't see. Mara's eyes swept the immediate area. Chen's body was closest. His kit was still attached to his vest. She crawled. Every movement was agony. Her chest felt like it was tearing open. Her breath came in shallow gasps. She made it 3 feet before she had to stop, vision graying at the edges. Move. Don't stop moving. She reached Chen's body. His eyes stared past her, already glazing. Mara tried not to look at his face as she fumbled with the buckles on his aid bag. Her fingers were slippery with blood. Hers, his, she didn't know. The bag came free. Inside, gauze, quick clot, pressure bandages. Morphine auto-injector. She grabbed the quick clot first, tore the package open with her teeth, packed the wound. The pain was... She didn't have words for it. White hot and total. Her vision went completely black for several seconds. When it came back, she was on her side, gasping. Finish it. She wrapped the pressure bandage around her torso with shaking hands. Not tight enough. She knew it wasn't tight enough, but it was something. The bleeding slowed. The morphine called to her. Just one click. Take the edge off. Mara left it in the bag. She needed to think. Couldn't do that doped up. She sat back against Chen's body, sorry, and tried to breathe without screaming. Okay. Assessment. She was alive, wounded but mobile. No extraction coming. Command thought she was dead. Either that or they wanted her dead, which amounted to the same thing. Hostiles in the area. Black Ridge had been overrun. The enemy would be sweeping for survivors, intel, equipment. Staying here meant death or capture. Moving meant probably death. But at least she'd die trying. Mara looked at Chen's rifle. M4, standard issue. She'd qualified on it in basic but never carried one. Medics carried aid bags, not rifles. That was the rule. Geneva Convention, non-combatant status, all that. She picked it up anyway. Checked the chamber, round loaded, safety off. Chen had died in the fight. Mara clicked it on, then checked the magazine. 23 rounds. Not much. She scavenged the bodies. Felt like desecration, but she didn't have a choice. 3 more magazines from Okoye. A canteen, half full. Chen's night vision goggles, cracked but functional. Hayes had a compass that wasn't broken and a map, blood-soaked but readable. She took it all, stood up. Immediately sat back down as vertigo crashed over her. Slow, go slow, second try. She made it to her feet, swaying. The outpost spun around her. She focused on breathing until it stopped. The map. She pulled it out, oriented herself. Black Ridge was 30 clicks north of Firebase Vanguard, the nearest American position. 30 kilometers through hostile territory, wounded, alone. She'd never make it, but staying meant dying for sure. Mara folded the map, stuffed it in her pocket, slung the rifle, started walking. The first 100 meters nearly killed her. Every step sent fresh pain lancing through her chest. The pressure bandage wasn't holding. She could feel fresh blood seeping through. But she kept moving because stopping meant dying, and she wasn't ready for that. Not yet. She made it to the perimeter fence before she heard voices. Not English. Mara dropped flat behind a burned-out Humvee. Her chest screamed in protest. She bit down on her lip hard enough to taste blood and forced herself to stay silent. The voices grew closer. At least 3 men sweeping the outpost, probably looking for survivors to interrogate, equipment to salvage, intelligence to gather. They'd find her if they kept coming. Mara's hand found the rifle. She pulled it close, thumb near the safety. Her training had covered combat engagement protocols, but she'd never actually... One of the voices laughed. A joke she didn't understand in a language she didn't speak. They were 20 feet away. 15. Mara's finger touched the safety. Her heart hammered so hard she was sure they could hear it. 10 feet. A radio crackled. One of the men answered. The conversation was brief. They changed direction, moving toward the command building instead. Mara waited until she couldn't hear them anymore. Then waited another 10 minutes. Then she moved. The jungle started half a click south of the outpost. Mara made it there as dawn broke, gray light filtering through smoke and clouds. The moment she crossed into the tree line, she collapsed. Just for a minute. Just to rest. She woke up 3 hours later, stiff and cold and still bleeding. Move. She moved. The jungle swallowed her. Thick canopy blocked most of the light. The undergrowth grabbed at her legs, her gear. Every step was a negotiation with pain. She found a stream by mid-morning, drank until her stomach cramped. Filled the canteen. The water was probably contaminated, but she'd take dysentery over dehydration. Her wound needed attention. She found a relatively dry spot under a fallen log, far enough from the stream that the sound of water would cover any noise she made. She peeled off her shirt. The pressure bandage was soaked through, black with dried blood. She removed it carefully, hissing through her teeth. The wound was bad, worse than she'd thought. 3 separate shrapnel tracks. The deepest one, maybe 4 inches. Already showing signs of infection, red, swollen, hot to the touch. She had antibiotics in Chen's kit. Started a course. Repacked the wound with fresh gauze. It wasn't enough, but it was all she had. When she was done, she sat with her back against the log and let herself shake. She'd been operational for, she checked her watch, 19 hours since the attack, moving on adrenaline and training and nothing else. Now that she'd stopped, everything caught up. Her hands trembled, her breath came in hitches. She pressed her palms to her eyes and felt something break open inside her chest that had nothing to do with shrapnel. They left me. The words kept circling back. She couldn't escape them. Bishop had seen her, had looked right at her, and he'd lied. All KIA. Why? The question ate at her. She turned it over, examined it from every angle. Maybe he hadn't seen her properly. Maybe the light was wrong, the smoke too thick, maybe... No. She'd seen his silhouette stop, seen the light linger on her face. He'd taken his time before answering that radio call. He'd made a choice. They all had. The rational part of Mara's brain, the part that still worked like a medic, like a soldier, tried to find excuses. They were under attack, pulling back under fire. Maybe they couldn't risk the time to extract a critically wounded soldier. Maybe... But that didn't explain the lie. If Bishop had said 1 critically wounded, unable to transport, that would be one thing. Combat triage. Hard choices. He'd said all KIA. He'd erased her. Mara sat in the jungle, bleeding and alone, and felt something fundamental shift inside her. She'd spent 8 years in the army, 3 deployments. She'd saved dozens of lives, pulled guys out of burning vehicles, kept them breathing until the medevac arrived, worked miracles with gauze and pressure and sheer stubborn will. She'd believed in it, the mission, the brotherhood, the idea that no one gets left behind. That belief died in the dirt at Blackridge. What replaced it was colder, harder. I survived. That was the only truth that mattered now. And I'm going to keep surviving. She stood up. Her legs shook but held. She slung the rifle, checked the map. Firebase Vanguard was still 30 clicks south. But Mara wasn't heading south anymore. She was heading east. There was a supply route there. She'd memorized the tactical maps during briefings. Lightly defended, used for moving equipment between bases. If she could intercept it, she might find a vehicle. Transport. Supplies. A way back. But not yet. First, she needed to heal enough to move properly. Needed to get her strength back. Needed to... A branch snapped. Mara froze. Silence. Then another sound. Footsteps. Multiple contacts moving through the jungle with the careful precision of a patrol. She dropped low, rifle ready. Her finger found the trigger, safety off. The footsteps came closer. Through the undergrowth, she saw them. 4 soldiers in unfamiliar uniforms, weapons ready, sweeping the area. Looking for something. Looking for her. Mara's breath stopped. They were 15 meters away. If they kept their current heading, they'd pass within 5 meters of her position, close enough to see her. She had 2 choices: hide and hope they missed her, or engage. 4 targets, 23 rounds. She'd have to drop all 4 before any of them could return fire or call for backup. She'd never fired a rifle at another human being in her life. Her hands didn't shake. The lead soldier stepped closer, 10 meters. His eyes scanned the jungle methodically. Professional, trained, 8 meters. Mara's finger tightened on the trigger. The front sight post lined up on center mass. Everything her DI had drilled into her at basic, breathe, squeeze, follow through, came back like muscle memory. 6 meters. The soldier stopped, raised his hand. The patrol halted. He was looking right at her hiding spot. Mara's world narrowed to the point of the front sight post. Her breath, slow and controlled. Her heartbeat, steady despite everything. The soldier took a step forward. A radio crackled. He answered in clipped syllables. The conversation was brief. When it ended, he gestured to his team. They changed direction, moving north instead. 30 seconds later, they were gone. Mara didn't move for another 10 minutes. When she finally lowered the rifle, her hands were steady. No tremor, no shake. That should have bothered her. It didn't. She waited until she was certain the patrol wasn't doubling back, then moved deeper into the jungle. Found a better hide. A dense thicket with good sight lines. Settled in. Night fell. Mara sat in the dark, rifle across her lap, and listened to the jungle. Insects, night birds, the distant sound of vehicles on a road she couldn't see. She thought about Bishop, about the way his light had lingered on her face before he lied, about her team, her friends, pulling out and leaving her to die. She thought about the soldier from the patrol, how easy it would have been to pull the trigger, how she'd been ready to, how she'd felt nothing. The medic who'd sworn to save lives had died at Blackridge. Mara didn't know what she was becoming, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was going to survive. And when she made it back, when she walked into Firebase Vanguard alive, everyone who'd left her was going to have to look her in the eyes and explain why. Rain started falling sometime after midnight, cold and relentless. Mara pulled her jacket tighter and let it wash the blood from her hands. By dawn, she was moving again. The next 3 days blurred together. Move, hide, rest, repeat. Her wound stopped bleeding, but the infection got worse. Fever came and went. She burned through the antibiotics, rationed her water, ate nothing because she had nothing to eat. The jungle tried to kill her in a dozen different ways. She kept moving anyway. On the 4th day, she found the supply route. It was barely a road, packed dirt, overgrown, but wide enough for vehicles. Mara studied it from the tree line for 2 hours before she moved. Watched one convoy pass, counted the vehicles, noted the spacing, memorized the pattern. They ran supplies every 6 hours. Next convoy would be at 1400. She had 3 hours. Mara used the time to prepare, found a good position with cover and concealment, checked her rifle, down to 9 rounds now after scavenging what she could from abandoned fighting positions she'd passed. Not enough for a sustained fight, enough for an ambush. The convoy appeared on schedule, 2 trucks, light security. They weren't expecting trouble this far from the front. Mara let the lead truck pass, waited for the second. When it was in the kill zone, she put 2 rounds through the driver's window. The truck swerved, crashed into a tree. The lead truck kept going. They hadn't realized what happened yet. Mara was moving before the second truck stopped rolling. She'd learned something over the past 4 days. Hesitation gets you killed. One guard stumbled out of the passenger side, disoriented. Mara shot him twice. Center mass. He dropped. The truck bed. She needed to check the truck bed. She moved around the wreck, rifle up. No other guards, just supplies. Food, water, medical gear, and ammunition. Mara grabbed what she could carry, stuffed her pockets with MREs, loaded fresh magazines, found a proper combat medic bag, and restocked her depleted aid kit. She had maybe 2 minutes before the lead truck realized something was wrong and came back. She used 90 seconds, left the rest, disappeared into the jungle before she heard them coming back. That night, fed and resupplied, Mara treated her wound properly for the first time since Blackridge. The infection was bad but manageable. She started a new antibiotic course, packed the wound with proper supplies, took some of the morphine she'd been saving. The pain faded. The anger didn't. She'd killed 3 men today, ambushed them, shot them without warning. She felt nothing. That should have terrified her. The Mara from a week ago would have been horrified, would have second-guessed every decision, agonized over the moral weight. This Mara just checked her ammunition count and planned her next move. Something had broken at Black Ridge, something fundamental. She didn't mourn it. 2 days later, she intercepted a radio transmission. She'd been monitoring the channels when she could, listening for intel. Most of it was operational traffic, convoy schedules, position reports, nothing useful. Then she heard it. Casualty report from Black Ridge Outpost, confirmed KYA, Lieutenant Mara Vance, Corporal James Hayes, Sergeant Amaro Koye, Private David Chen. Mara stopped breathing. Remains recovered and processed. Next of kin notifications in progress. Closing file. The transmission ended. She sat in the dark, radio in hand, and understood. They hadn't just left her. They'd buried her. Filed her death. Notified her family. Closed her file. Lieutenant Mara Vance was officially dead. The anger she'd been carrying crystallized into something sharper, colder. They erased me. She wasn't a casualty of war. She was a mistake they'd cleaned up. A loose end tied off. Why? The question burned, but she didn't have an answer. Not yet. She kept moving. Firebase Vanguard appeared on the horizon 8 days after Black Ridge. Mara watched it from a ridgeline, half a click out. Guard towers. Razor wire. The American flag hanging in the center of the compound. Home. She could walk in, turn herself in, report what happened. They'd have to deal with her then. Couldn't exactly ignore a dead soldier who showed up alive. But something made her hesitate. Bishop had lied about her status. Someone had filed her death. The system had processed it without question. What happened if she just walked in? Would they be relieved, apologetic, or would she become a problem that needed solving? Mara thought about the ambush, about how clean it had been, how professional, how the enemy had known exactly where they'd be, exactly when. She thought about Bishop's hesitation before he called her dead, and she realized, I don't know who to trust. So she waited, watched the base, learned its rhythms, guard rotations, supply schedules, who came and went. On the 3rd day, she saw him, Bishop, walking across the compound like nothing had happened, laughing with another soldier, alive and well and completely unbothered by the fact that he'd left her to die. Mara's finger tightened on the rifle she'd been holding. She could do it. She'd gotten good at this. One shot. He'd never know what hit him. But that would give her away. And she still didn't have answers. She watched him disappear into the command building instead. That night, Mara made her decision. She wasn't going in through the front gate. She was going in quiet. She was going to find out why they'd left her, who'd ordered it, what they were hiding, and then she'd decide who lived and who died. She waited until 0200. Guard change, 15-second gap in coverage on the southeast corner. She'd timed it. Mara moved through the gap like smoke, over the wire, past the perimeter, into the shadows between buildings. Home. Except it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like enemy territory. She made it to the command building. The door was locked, but she'd expected that. Found a window on the 2nd floor that someone had left cracked for ventilation. Inside. The hallway was dark. Empty. Mara moved through it silent, rifle ready. She found the operations center on the 3rd floor. The door was closed but not locked. They weren't expecting infiltration on a secure base. She slipped inside. Files. Computers. Maps. Everything she needed. She found the Black Ridge folder in the classified section. Pulled it. Casualty reports, after-action summaries, intelligence assessments, and a note, handwritten, clipped to the front. Clean sweep authorized. No survivors. File and forget. Hayes Colonel Hayes, the commanding officer. Mara read it twice. Then again. Clean sweep authorized. Not a failed extraction, not combat triage. Authorized. Someone had ordered them to leave her. Had wanted Black Ridge's survivors eliminated. Why? She kept digging. Found another file. This one labeled Operation Redline, classified. Inside, shipping manifests, payment records, names she didn't recognize, and photos. Weapons. Munitions. Being loaded onto trucks at Black Ridge. American weapons. Going to enemy forces. Mara's hand shook as she turned the pages. Someone was running guns, using Black Ridge as a transfer point, selling American weapons to the people they were supposed to be fighting. And when the base got hit, when the ambush happened, it wasn't random. It was cleanup. Everyone at Blackridge had seen something, known something, become a liability. So they'd been eliminated, and the survivors, the ones who might talk, had been left to die. They didn't abandon me by accident. They tried to kill me. Mara stood in the dark, the file in her hands, and felt the last piece of her old life crumble away. She'd trusted these people, had bled for them, had saved their lives, and they'd sold her out for money. The door opened. Mara spun, rifle up. Bishop stood in the doorway, his own weapon pointed at her chest. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Bishop smiled. Wrong. All wrong. You should have stayed dead, Vance. His finger moved to the trigger. Mara moved. Not a decision, pure reflex. She dropped left as Bishop's muzzle flashed, the round punching through the space where her head had been a split second before. The sound was deafening in the enclosed room, her ears immediately ringing. She didn't return fire. Couldn't. Not yet. Shooting Bishop would bring the entire base down on her, and she needed answers more than she needed him dead. Instead, she dove behind a desk as 2 more rounds chewed through the wood, splinters exploding into the air. Her shoulder hit the floor hard, and her chest wound screamed in protest, fresh pain lancing through her ribs. Should have checked better. Bishop's voice, loud and wrong, adrenaline pitched. Should have made sure. He was moving, circling. Mara heard his boots on the tile floor, trying to flank her position. She rolled, came up on one knee behind a filing cabinet. Her rifle was up, but her finger stayed off the trigger. Think. She needed to think. Bishop appeared around the cabinet's edge, weapon raised. Mara kicked the cabinet hard. It toppled forward, 300 pounds of steel and classified files crashing down. Bishop tried to jump back but wasn't fast enough. The corner caught his shin and he went down cursing. She was on him before he could recover. Her boot caught his wrist, pinning his gun hand to the floor. Her rifle's muzzle found the soft spot under his jaw. Bishop froze, eyes wide, his free hand raised in surrender that came too late. Don't, Mara said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, flat, empty. Bishop's chest heaved, sweat beaded on his forehead. Up close, she could see he was younger than she'd thought. Maybe 25, just a kid playing soldier. You gonna shoot me? His voice cracked. In the middle of the base? They'll hear. Yeah. Mara pressed the muzzle harder into his throat. They will. So what, you kill me and then what? You're still dead, still erased. They'll just... Who ordered it? The question came out quiet, controlled. Blackridge. Who gave the order? Bishop's eyes darted to the side, looking for an exit, a way out. Mara shifted her weight, grinding her boot into his wrist. He gasped. I'm not asking again. Hayes. The name came out in a rush. Colonel Hayes. It wasn't supposed to go down like that, okay? We were just supposed to secure the shipment, move it out quiet. But then the attack happened, and you were told to leave no witnesses. Bishop's silence was answer enough. Mara's finger tightened on the trigger. It would be easy. So easy. Just a few pounds of pressure and Bishop would never lie about another dead soldier again. But that file. Operation Redline. This went higher than one sergeant following orders. How many? She asked. What? How many people are in on it? The gun running? The cover-up? Bishop's laugh was bitter, breathless. You think they tell me? I follow orders, that's it. Who else was at Blackridge? Who else walked past me? His eyes closed. Martinez, Cordero, Lieutenant Fisk. 4 of them. 4 people who'd looked at her dying body and kept walking. They all know? About you? Yeah. Hayes told us it was cleaner this way. That if we tried to extract you, questions would get asked. The wound was too bad, you'd probably die anyway. And Mara's boot pressed harder. Bishop choked. And what? And dead soldiers don't talk. It came out strangled. That's what he said. Dead soldiers don't ask questions about why half the Blackridge armory went missing. Dead soldiers don't wonder why the attack came exactly when we were loading the trucks. The attack wasn't opportunistic. It was coordinated. Mara's stomach turned. How long? Her voice was barely a whisper. How long has this been running? 6 months? Maybe more? I only got brought in 2 months ago. They needed people they could trust to keep quiet. Trust. The word tasted like acid. You left your own people to die, and you call that trust? Bishop's face twisted. You think I liked it? You think I wanted... He stopped, swallowed. Orders are orders. Not like that they're not. Easy to say when you're not the one who has to follow them. His eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw something other than fear there. Anger. You know what happens to people who don't play ball? They end up like you, dead. Except they actually stay that way. A sound in the hallway. Footsteps. Someone walking past. Mara and Bishop both froze. The footsteps paused outside the door. Mara's finger moved to the trigger. If that door opened, if someone saw them. The footsteps continued, faded down the hall. She exhaled slowly. When she looked back at Bishop, something had changed in his expression, calculation replacing fear. "You're not going to shoot me," he said quietly. "Don't bet on it." "Yeah, I am, because you're not stupid. You kill me, you're done. But if you let me go..." "You'll what? Help me?" Mara almost laughed. "You left me in the dirt. You're part of this." "I'm a survivor, same as you." Bishop's voice dropped, conspiratorial. "Look, Hayes has half the command staff in his pocket. You walk out there, you're dead, but I can get you out. Get you somewhere safe until you figure out your next move." "Why would you do that?" "Because I don't want to die tonight." Simple. Honest. And because maybe I don't like what we did. What I did. Mara studied his face, looking for the lie. She couldn't find it, but that didn't mean it wasn't there. "Here's what's going to happen," she said. "You're going to tell me everything you know about Operation Redline. Names, dates, shipments, everything. Then you're going to get me into Hayes' office without triggering every alarm on this base. And then? Then I decide if you live." Bishop held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded. Mara stepped back, rifle still trained on him. Bishop sat up slowly, rubbing his wrist. "Start talking," she said. "Hayes is the center of it. He's got contacts on both sides. Brokers who sell to insurgent groups, procurement officers who look the other way when inventory goes missing. Black Ridge was perfect because it's remote, minimal oversight, easy to cook the books." "Who else is involved?" "Major Carver handles logistics. Captain Webb runs interference with the IG inspectors. There's maybe a dozen others, people who transport, people who take the money, people who make sure the right reports get filed." "A dozen." Mara's hands tightened on the rifle. "The shipments go out how often?" "Every 2 weeks. Next one's in 3 days." "Where?" "I don't know. That's above my pay grade." Mara's finger twitched toward the trigger. "I swear," Bishop said quickly. "They keep it compartmentalized. I just help with security, make sure nobody sees what they're not supposed to see." "Like me?" "Yeah, like you." The file folder was still on the floor where Mara had dropped it. She picked it up one-handed, keeping the rifle steady. "Hayes' office. Now." Bishop stood, movements careful. "You know this is crazy, right? Even if you get the evidence, even if you expose all of this, they'll kill you before it sees daylight. Then I better move fast." They moved through the building like ghosts. Bishop led, Mara 3 steps behind with her rifle ready. The hallways were mostly empty at this hour, skeleton crew on night duty. The few soldiers they passed didn't give them a second look. Just 2 more bodies moving through the dark. Hayes' office was on the 4th floor, corner suite, best view of the base. Bishop used a key card to unlock the outer door. "Where'd you get that?" Mara whispered. "I run errands for him sometimes. Courier stuff." He pushed the door open. "He trusts me." Trusted. Inside, the office was exactly what Mara expected. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, American flag in the corner. Citations on the wall, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Combat Infantry Badge. A career soldier. A decorated hero. A traitor. Mara moved to the desk. Locked. She looked at Bishop. He produced another key. "Told you, he trusts me." The drawer opened. Inside, more files. A laptop. A burner phone. And a ledger. Handwritten, coded, but the numbers were clear enough. Millions of dollars. Mara photographed everything with Bishop's phone. Page after page, documentation of corruption running so deep it made her sick. "There's a safe," Bishop said, pointing to a painting on the wall. Behind it, a small digital safe. "Combination's his daughter's birthday, 4218. "How do you know that?" "I pay attention." The safe opened. Inside, cash, maybe 50,000 in hundreds. Passports, 3 of them, all with Hayes' photo, different names. And a USB drive. Mara took the drive, left the cash. She was downloading the laptop files when the door opened. Not the door they'd come through, the side door, the one that connected to the adjoining office. Colonel Hayes stood in the doorway, handgun already drawn. Well, he said calmly, this is disappointing. Mara's rifle came up. Hayes's gun was already pointed at Bishop. Lower it, Lieutenant, or Bishop dies. She's not a lieutenant anymore, Bishop said, voice tight. You made sure of that. Shut up. Hayes didn't look at him. His eyes stayed on Mara. You should be dead. Yeah, I get that a lot lately. I read the after-action report. Massive trauma, blood loss, no combat medic support. You should have died in that dirt. Sorry to disappoint, Hayes smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. You were always tenacious, good medic, saved a lot of lives, but that's the problem, isn't it? You see too much. Remember too much. Can't just let things go. You mean like watching American weapons get loaded onto trucks headed for enemy territory? Alleged enemy territory. Hayes's gun hand remained steady. The world isn't as simple as they teach you at basic, Lieutenant. Wars end. New ones begin. Today's enemy is tomorrow's ally. The smart ones get ahead of that curve. The smart ones sell out their own people for profit? I prefer to think of it as ensuring future stability. The money we make now funds operations the Pentagon won't touch. Black site security, asset recruitment, the things that keep this country safe when the politicians tie our hands. That's what you tell yourself? Mara's voice was cold. That killing your own soldiers is patriotic? Black Ridge was an accident. The attack wasn't supposed to happen that way. But when it did, Hayes shrugged. Operational security became paramount. The men who died there were casualties of war. It happens. And me? You were supposed to die with them. But here we are. Bishop shifted slightly. Hayes's gun tracked him immediately. Don't, Hayes said. I've known you were weak since I brought you in. Knew you'd crack eventually. Didn't think you'd be stupid enough to help her, though. You left her to die, Bishop said. That wasn't the deal. The deal was you follow orders and get paid. That's it. Hayes's finger tightened on the trigger. And you just violated both. Mara saw it coming a split second before it happened. Saw Hayes's shoulder tense, saw the micro-adjustment in his aim. She moved. Her boot hit the desk, hard. It slammed into Hayes just as he fired. The round went wide, punching through the window behind Mara. Glass exploded. Bishop dove left. Mara went right, rifle coming up. Hayes was already moving, combat instincts sharp despite his age. He dropped behind the heavy desk, using it for cover. Alarm's triggered, he called out. That window breaking set it off. You've got maybe 60 seconds before security arrives. Mara didn't answer. She was calculating angles, sight lines. The desk was solid wood, her rounds wouldn't penetrate, but Hayes had to come out eventually, unless security arrived first. I'll make you a deal, Hayes said. His voice was conversational, like they were discussing the weather. Walk away now. I'll report this as an insurgent incursion. You get out clean. So you can hunt me down later? Better than dying here tonight. Bishop was pressed against the wall near the side door, hands empty. His gun had slid across the floor when he dove, out of reach. Mara met his eyes, jerked her head toward the weapon. He shook his head, mouthed too far. Footsteps in the hall, running, multiple contacts. Time's up, Hayes said. The main door burst open. 2 security officers, weapons drawn. Mara dropped them both before they could process what they were seeing. 2 shots, center mass. They went down. Bishop stared at her, face white. Mara felt nothing. Hayes used the distraction. He came around the desk, gun up. But Mara had anticipated it. She was already tracking, already squeezing. Her round caught Hayes in the shoulder, spinning him. His gun clattered to the floor. He went down hard, cursing. Blood spread across his uniform. Mara crossed the distance in 3 strides, kicked his weapon away, stood over him, rifle pointed at his head. Hayes looked up at her, teeth gritted against pain. You gonna do it? Give me a reason not to. Because if you kill me, you'll never know how deep this goes. You think I'm running this alone? I've got partners, people way above my pay grade. You put me down, they'll just find someone else. Then I'll find them too. You're one person, one soldier who's officially KIA. You've got no authority, no backup, no. The USB drive dug into Mara's pocket. She pulled it out, held it up. I've got this. Hayes' expression changed. Real fear, for the first time. You can't, everything, right? Names, transactions, communications, everything you were stupid enough to keep records of. More footsteps, lots of them. The base was waking up. Bishop grabbed her arm. We have to move. Now. Mara looked at Hayes, bleeding on his office floor. One shot. That's all it would take. But he was right. He was a symptom. The disease went deeper. She lowered the rifle. You're going to tell them the truth, she said. All of it. Everyone involved. Or I release these files to every news outlet, every IG inspector, every congressional oversight committee I can find. Hayes laughed. Wet. Pained. You think they'll believe you? A dead woman with stolen files? I think they'll investigate. And investigations have a way of uncovering things people want buried. She turned to Bishop. Where's the vehicle bay? East side, but we'll never... Then we better move fast. They ran. The hallway outside was chaos. Alarms blaring, soldiers mobilizing, officers shouting contradictory orders. No one knew what was happening yet, just that there'd been shooting in the CO's office. Mara and Bishop moved through the confusion like they belonged there. Just two more soldiers responding to the crisis. They made it down 2 floors before someone recognized her. That's Vance, a sergeant pointing. She's supposed to be... Mara put him down with a buttstock to the temple. He dropped. More shouts, someone finally putting it together. Contact! Hostile in the building! Gunfire erupted behind them. Rounds punched through drywall, sparking off metal railings. Mara returned fire without looking, just suppressive bursts to keep heads down. They hit the ground floor at a sprint. The vehicle bay was 100 meters across open ground. We'll never make it, Bishop gasped. Mara spotted a fire alarm on the wall, smashed the glass, pulled it. Immediately, sprinklers activated throughout the building. Water cascaded from the ceiling, visibility dropping to almost nothing. Move! They burst out the side door into controlled chaos. Soldiers were pouring out of barracks, fire teams assembling, nobody sure if this was a drill or a real emergency. Mara and Bishop ran for the vehicle bay, made it 30 meters before someone opened fire. Mara felt the round pass close enough to feel the heat. She dove behind a concrete barrier, Bishop right behind her. There! Someone was pointing. 2 contacts, northeast corner. A full squad was forming up, weapons oriented on their position. They were pinned. Bishop was breathing hard, eyes wide with panic. We're done, Mara spotted a fuel truck parked near the bay, 50 meters away. Can you drive? What? Can you drive that truck? Bishop followed her gaze. Understanding dawned. You're insane. Probably. On 3. 1. She didn't wait for 3. Mara broke cover, sprinting for the truck. Rounds kicked up dirt around her feet. She felt one tug at her jacket, another burn a line across her thigh. She kept running, made it to the truck. The door was unlocked. She hauled herself into the cab as Bishop scrambled up the other side. The engine turned over. Diesel rumble. Hold on, Mara said. She floored it. The truck lurched forward, accelerating. 30 tons of steel and fuel headed straight for the base perimeter. Gunfire intensified. Rounds sparked off the armor-plated cab, spiderwebbed the windshield. Mara ducked low, steering blind. The gate loomed ahead, closed. Guards scrambling to swing the barrier vehicle into position. They weren't going to make it in time. The truck hit the gate at 40 miles an hour. Metal shrieked. The barrier crumpled. The truck punched through, dragging chain link and razor wire. Then they were through. Outside the wire. Free. Mara kept the accelerator down, putting distance between them and the base. Behind them, alarms still wailed. Lights swept the darkness. No pursuit yet. They were probably still trying to figure out what happened. 2 clicks out, she pulled off the road into dense jungle. Killed the engine. Silence rushed in. Bishop was shaking. They're going to... Yeah. We're dead. You know that? We're both dead. Hayes has people everywhere. They'll hunt us down. Probably. Bishop laughed. High-pitched, unhinged. You're insane. You're completely... Mara grabbed his collar, pulled him close. Listen to me. You want to live? Then you do exactly what I say. We stick together, we move fast, we don't stop until we find someone who can do something with this. She pulled out the USB drive. Someone outside Hayes's reach. Who? Everyone at Vanguard is compromised. Everyone in the chain of command could be in on it. Then we go outside the chain of command. To who? Mara didn't have an answer yet, but she'd figure it out. She always did. They abandoned the truck 3 clicks later, wiped it down, moved into the jungle on foot. Mara's wound was bleeding again. The stitches had torn during the truck crash, but she kept moving. Bishop followed, shell-shocked but functional. Dawn found them 10 clicks from Firebase Vanguard, hidden in thick vegetation. Mara's radio, taken from one of the guards she'd dropped, crackled with traffic. Full lockdown, all personnel accounted for, except Vanguard Actual. Be advised we have 2 hostiles at large. Vance and Bishop, considered armed and extremely dangerous. Shoot on sight authorized. Repeat, shoot on sight. Bishop's face went gray. They'll kill us, he whispered. They'll try. Mara turned off the radio, saved the battery. She checked her ammunition, 4 magazines left, maybe 100 rounds. Against an entire base, against Hayes' network, against everyone who wanted her dead. The odds were bad. But Mara had survived worse. She'd survived being abandoned, survived infection and starvation, survived becoming something she never thought she'd be. She'd survived this too. And when she was done, every person who'd left her in that dirt would answer for it. Bishop was watching her. What now? Good question. Mara thought about the USB drive, the evidence, Hayes' network. She thought about Firebase Vanguard and the shoot-on-sight order. She thought about the girl she'd been before Blackridge, the medic who saved lives, who believed in the mission, who trusted her brothers and sisters in arms. That girl was gone. What remained was someone harder, someone who'd learned that survival meant making impossible choices, someone who'd learned to pull the trigger. Now, Mara said quietly, we disappear. We find somewhere safe to hide this evidence. And then a branch snapped. Both of them froze. Through the jungle, voices. A patrol, sweeping the area. Grid Sector 7. Nothing yet? Keep looking. They can't have gone far. Mara's hand found Bishop's arm, squeezed. Stay quiet. The voices moved closer. 50 meters. 40. Mara's finger rested on the trigger, counting heartbeats, waiting. 30 meters. The patrol stopped. You hear something? Silence. Then, negative. Just the jungle. Copy. Moving to Sector 8. The voices faded. Mara exhaled slowly. Bishop's hands were shaking. How long can we do this? How long before? As long as it takes. But she knew he was right. They couldn't run forever. Hayes' network was too big, too connected. Eventually someone would find them, unless she found them first. The thought crystallized, sharp and clear. She couldn't just hide, couldn't just survive and hope for rescue. She had to take the fight to them, one by one, if necessary. Every person Hayes had corrupted, every officer who'd looked the other way, every soldier who'd chosen money over honor, starting with the ones who'd left her to die. Mara pulled out the list she'd memorized from Hayes' files. 23 names, 23 people involved in Operation Redline, 23 targets. Bishop saw her expression. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, Mara said slowly, that being dead has advantages. What? They think I'm KIA, filed and forgotten, which means I can move without anyone looking for Lieutenant Mara Vance. She met his eyes. Because she doesn't exist anymore. Understanding dawned on Bishop's face, followed immediately by horror. You're talking about going after them, hunting them. I'm talking about justice. That's not justice, that's revenge. Sometimes, Mara said, they're the same thing. Bishop didn't say anything for a long time, just stared at her like he was seeing someone completely different from the medic who'd patched him up 6 months ago after a training accident. Maybe he was. You're serious, he finally said. Dead serious. Mara pulled out the handwritten list she'd transcribed from Hayes' files, 23 names in small, tight script. Martinez, Cordero, Fisk, they were there, they walked past me. And the others? Enablers, people who made it possible, who moved the weapons, laundered the money, falsified the reports. She folded the list carefully. They're all complicit. So what, you're going to kill all of them? 23 people? I'm going to make sure they answer for what they did. That's not an answer. Mara met his eyes. It's the only answer I've got. Bishop ran his hands through his hair, breathing hard. You can't just... There has to be another way. Turn over the evidence. Let the system handle it. The system buried me, filed my death, and moved on. Then go to the press. Leak it online. Blow the whole thing open without what? Getting my hands dirty? Mara's voice went cold. I've already killed 5 men in the past 2 hours, Bishop. The guards in Hayes' office, the ones at the gate. I'm way past clean hands. That was combat, self-defense. This is different. Is it? The question hung in the humid air between them. Bishop looked away first. I can't be part of this. Then leave. Mara checked her rifle, ejected the magazine, counted rounds. 15 left in this one. Nobody's keeping you here. Just like that? Just like that. He stood there, indecisive, war playing out behind his eyes. Finally, where would I even go? I'm KIA-2 now. Shoot on sight. My life is over. Your life as Sergeant Bishop is over. But you can disappear. New name, new country. There's enough cash in my pack from Hayes' safe to get you started. You took the cash? Some of it. Enough. She'd grabbed maybe 10,000 while Bishop wasn't looking. Practical. Take half. Get to the coast. Find a boat to anywhere. Start over. And you? I finished this. Bishop sat down heavily on a fallen log, put his head in his hands. When he spoke, his voice was muffled. They'll kill you, even if you take down all 23, and that's a big if. They'll eventually kill you. Probably. So why? Mara thought about that. About lying in the dirt at Blackridge, bleeding out, listening to Boots walk away. About the radio transmission declaring her KIA. About Hayes' casual dismissal of their deaths as operational security. Because nobody else will, she said quietly. She left him there, moved deeper into the jungle to think. The morning was coming on hot and wet, mist rising from the ground in thick columns. Somewhere a bird screamed, harsh grating sound that matched her mood. 23 names. She couldn't take them all head on. She was one person with limited ammunition and a half-healed chest wound that still leaked blood when she moved wrong. A straight fight would get her killed. But she'd spent the past 2 weeks learning to hunt, learning to move quiet, strike fast, disappear. Learning that hesitation got you killed and guilt was a luxury she couldn't afford. She'd learned other things too, things about herself she hadn't known before Blackridge. She was good at this, not just competent, good, natural. Like some part of her brain had been waiting for this her whole life, waiting for the permission to stop saving lives and start taking them. That should have horrified her. It didn't. Mara pulled out the list again, studied the names. Martinez was at Vanguard. So was Cordero. But Fisk, Lieutenant Fisk had been transferred after Blackridge. Standard rotation. He was at Forward Operating Base Grinder now, 40 clicks northeast. Isolated. Vulnerable. A start. She heard Bishop approaching before she saw him. He'd gotten better at moving quiet, but not that much better. I'm coming with you, he said. Mara didn't turn around. Thought you couldn't be part of this. I can't, but I also can't just... He stopped, started again. You saved my life tonight. In Hayes' office. You could have left me there, used me as a distraction. You didn't. So? So I owe you. And maybe some of those people on that list deserve what's coming. Mara turned to face him. This isn't about debts, and I'm not looking for a partner. Good, because I'm not offering, but you need someone to watch your back. Someone who knows how these people operate, how they think. He met her eyes. Someone who's already buried once and has nothing left to lose. She studied him, looking for the angle, the deception, found only exhaustion and anger, and something that might have been shame. Fisk, she said, F-O-B Grinder. We hit him first. Wow, why Fisk? Because he's alone. Because nobody at Grinder knows me. And because... She paused. Because I need to know if I can actually do this. Kill someone in cold blood? Kill someone who deserves it. Bishop's expression didn't change. What's the difference? Mara didn't have an answer to that. They moved through the jungle for 3 days, slow, careful, avoiding patrols that swept the area looking for them. Hayes had every available unit searching, but the jungle was big, and they knew how to hide. Bishop proved useful. He knew patrol patterns, comm frequencies, standard operating procedures, knew which routes the supply convoys took and when they ran. On the second day, they ambushed a convoy. Quick hit. Mara dropped the driver, Bishop grabbed the supplies they needed. Food, water, medical gear, ammunition, in and out in 90 seconds. They left one soldier alive. Sent him back with a message scratched into the truck's hood. More coming. Let Hayes wonder. Let him sweat. The wound in Mara's chest was getting worse despite the antibiotics. Red, hot, swollen. She needed real medical care but couldn't risk going anywhere near a base. So she did what she could. Fresh dressings. More antibiotics. Ignored the pain. On the third night, they reached the hills overlooking FOB Grinder. The base was smaller than Vanguard. Maybe 200 personnel, light defenses. Designed as a forward observation post, not a fortress. Mara watched it through Bishop's binoculars for 4 hours, learning rhythms, timing guard rotations, mapping approach routes. There, Bishop said quietly, pointing. Officers' quarters. Second building from the left. Mara adjusted focus. Found the building. Simple plywood construction, 8 rooms. Fisk would be in one of them. How do we get in? Same way we got out of Vanguard. Fast and loud. That'll get us killed. You have a better idea? Mara lowered the binoculars. Yeah, we don't go in at all. What? We make him come to us. She'd been thinking about this, about Hayes' network and how it operated. These people were criminals, but they were also soldiers. They followed patterns, protocols, and they were scared. Hayes would have sent word to everyone involved. Vance is alive, Bishop's turned, watch your backs. They'd be paranoid, jumpy, good. There's a supply drop tomorrow, Mara said. Helicopter from Vanguard, monthly resupply. How do you know that? Heard it on the radio yesterday. You were sleeping. She'd been monitoring frequencies constantly, building intelligence. Fisk will be there. Senior officer present. He'll supervise the offload. So we hit the helicopter before it lands. Make it look like mechanical failure. Force them to divert to an alternate LZ. She pulled out the map. Here, 3 clicks west. Open ground, minimal cover. Understanding dawned on Bishop's face. And Fisk will go to secure the site. With a small team, maybe 4 guys. We take them there. That's actually not bad. I've learned a few things. They spent the rest of the night preparing. Mara had Bishop show her how to build an improvised explosive from supplies they'd scavenged. Nothing sophisticated, just date cord, blasting caps, and a pressure trigger. Enough to damage a helicopter's tail rotor without bringing it down. Make it look like equipment failure. The helicopter came in at 1100 hours. Huey, standard transport configuration. Mara watched it through the binoculars from a hide position 200 meters from the LZ. The pilot made his approach, started his descent. The explosion was small, sharp crack, visible puff of smoke from the tail section. The helicopter lurched, yawed hard right. The pilot fought it, aborting the landing, climbing back out. Mara listened on the radio. Grinder Tower, we have a malfunction. Aborting approach. Copy that, Nighthawk 6. What's your status? Tail rotor damage. Can maintain flight but need an alternate LZ. Stand by. 30 seconds. Then, Nighthawk 6, divert to grid Papa 79er. Open field. Minimal obstacles. Roger, Papa 79er. Grinder, we'll need ground security for the offload. Copy, dispatching now. Mara clicked off the radio, looked at Bishop. Here we go. They were in position at the alternate LZ when the helicopter landed. Mara had chosen the site carefully. Open ground surrounded by jungle, good sight lines, multiple exfil routes. The Huey touched down. Rotors winding down. Crew chief jumped out, started assessing the damage. 5 minutes later, the security team arrived. 4 soldiers in a Humvee. Lieutenant Fisk was driving. Mara recognized him from 100 briefings at Vanguard. Tall, lean, early 30s. Graduate of West Point. Fast-tracked for command. Traitor. The security team spread out, establishing a perimeter while the crew offloaded supplies. Standard procedure. Mara waited. The key to a good ambush was patience. Let them get comfortable. Let them think everything was routine. She gave them 20 minutes. Then she opened fire. Her first shot took out the soldier farthest from the group. He dropped without a sound. The others reacted instantly. Combat veterans, well-trained. They went prone, weapons up, scanning for threats. But they were looking in the wrong direction. Mara had positioned herself north of the LZ, fired from there to draw their attention. But her real position was east, 40 meters away. Bishop opened up from the west. Controlled bursts, forcing them to split their attention. Caught in a crossfire. 2 more soldiers went down. Return fire was scattered, panicked. They couldn't see their targets. The helicopter pilot tried to restart his bird. The rotor began to turn. Mara put 3 rounds through the engine compartment. The rotor sputtered, died. Now they were stuck. Fisk was screaming orders, trying to organize a response. But his team was down to him and 1 other soldier, and that soldier was bleeding from a leg wound. Mara changed positions, moved through the jungle like smoke. Came at them from a new angle. Found Fisk trying to drag the wounded soldier to cover. Don't, she said. Fisk froze. Turned slowly. His eyes went wide when he saw her. Vance? Hey, Lieutenant. You're... They said you were dead. Yeah, I keep hearing that. Mara's rifle stayed steady on his chest. Let him go. Fisk released the wounded soldier, stood slowly, hands raising. Listen, whatever you think, I don't think anything. I know. She pulled out the USB drive, held it up. Hayes's files, all of it. Operation Redline, the gun running, the cover-up. Your name's all over it. His face went pale. I can explain. Blackridge, you were there. Vance, you walked past me, saw me breathing, called me KIA anyway. Fisk's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Orders. We had orders. Hayes said, I don't care what Hayes said. It wasn't personal. We thought you were wounded bad. The infection would probably... We thought you'd die anyway. So you made sure of it. No, we just... He swallowed hard. We followed orders. You left me to die so you could protect your gun-running operation. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Fisk had no answer. Bishop emerged from the jungle, weapon ready. The wounded soldier tried to raise his rifle. Bishop kicked it away. Anyone else alive? Mara asked. Negative. Just these two. Mara kept her eyes on Fisk. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything you know about Operation Redline. Every name, every shipment, every dirty dollar. And if you lie to me even once, you'll kill me? No, I'll let you live, and I'll make sure everyone knows you talked. Hayes, Carver, Webb, all of them. They'll spend the rest of their lives wondering when you're going to flip on them completely. Fisk's expression shifted, fear giving way to calculation. You want information. I want justice. Information gets me there. And if I cooperate, what then? Then maybe you get to walk away from this. It was a lie. They both knew it, but Fisk was a survivor, like Bishop, like her. And survivors took whatever chance they could get. Okay, he said. Okay, I'll tell you everything. He did. Over the next hour, Fisk laid it all out. The network was bigger than Mara had thought. Not just weapons, intelligence, equipment, even personnel. Hayes was selling anything that could turn a profit. He had contacts in 3 countries, buyers ranging from insurgent groups to private military contractors. The money went into offshore accounts, laundered through shell companies, distributed to everyone involved. How much? Mara asked. Total? Maybe 40 million over the past year? Bishop whistled low. And Blackridge? Was supposed to be routine. Move a shipment, clear the base, make it look like normal operations. But someone talked. The insurgents knew we'd be vulnerable. They hit us the same night we were loading the trucks. Convenient. Hayes thinks it was deliberate. Someone on the buyer's side trying to eliminate competition, or maybe just wanting to take the weapons without paying for them. Fisk shook his head. Either way, when the attack happened, we had to cover it up. Anyone who'd seen the shipment had to die. Yeah. Mara felt cold, clinical, like she was processing tactical information, not discussing the murder of her friends. Who else was at Blackridge that night? Besides you, Martinez, Cordero, Bishop? Captain Webb coordinated. Major Carver approved the shipment. Hayes gave the final order to abandon survivors. Anyone else? Sergeant Price. He's at Firebase Kassan now. He was the one who... Fisk stopped. Who what? Who checked the bodies, made sure everyone was actually dead. Mara's finger tightened on the trigger. Except he didn't check very well. I guess not. She wanted to shoot him. Wanted it so badly her hands shook with the restraint. But she needed him, needed what he knew. Where's the next shipment? 5 days. Firebase Kassan. Price is running security. How many people know about it? Maybe 20, the core group. Everyone on your list, plus a few locals who help with transport. 20 people. Not as bad as 23. But still. Mara looked at Bishop. Thoughts? We can't hit a base that size, not just the 2 of us. 3 of us, Fisk said quickly. I can help. I know the layout, the protocols, who's dirty and who's clean. Why would you help us? Mara's voice was flat. Because Hayes will kill me anyway. You said it yourself. He'll think I talked. I'm dead whether you shoot me now or I go back. Fisk's eyes were desperate. At least this way I have a chance. A chance at what? Immunity. Witness protection. If we blow this wide open, if we get evidence to the right people, maybe I can cut a deal. You think you deserve a deal? I think I want to live, same as you. Mara studied him, looking for the lie, found only naked self-interest, which was, in its way, more honest than anything else. Bishop? she asked. He's right about one thing. We need someone on the inside, someone who can tell us who to trust. Can we trust him? Bishop looked at Fisk for a long moment. No, but we can use him. Mara made her decision. Here's the deal. You help us take down Hayes and everyone involved. Full cooperation, no holding back. You do that, I'll make sure you get your deal. How? You're dead. You've got no authority. I've got evidence, and I've got motivation. That counts for something. Fisk nodded slowly. Okay, I'm in. Good. Mara lowered her rifle slightly. First test, the wounded guy. Is he part of it? Fisk glanced at the soldier on the ground, bleeding from his leg. No, he's clean. Just drew the wrong duty assignment. Then patch him up. Bishop moved to help the wounded soldier while Mara kept her weapon on Fisk, watching for any sign of betrayal. But Fisk just stood there, hands still raised, looking like a man who'd accepted his fate. They bound and gagged the wounded soldier, left him tied to a tree where the next patrol would find him. He'd live. Then they headed north, toward Khesan. 3 days of hard travel through terrain that got worse with every mile. Mara's wound was infected again. Fever came and went. She pushed through it. Bishop watched her with increasing concern. You need to rest. I'll rest when this is done. You'll be dead before it's done. Then I better move fast. On the second night, Fisk tried to run. Mara caught him before he made it 50 meters, tackled him, put her knee in his spine, her gun to his head. Don't, she said quietly. I can't do this. Fisk was shaking. You're going to kill all of them, and then you're going to kill me. Probably. Then why should I help you? Because if you run, I'll kill you right now. Help me, you live a little longer. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe something changes. That's not much of an incentive. It's all you've got. She let him up. He didn't run again. Firebase Khesan sat in a valley surrounded by mountains. Bigger than Grinder, smaller than Vanguard. Maybe 400 personnel. The shipment would move through there in 3 days. They set up observation on a ridge overlooking the base. Mara watched through binoculars while Fisk pointed out key personnel. That's Sergeant Price, there, coming out of the mess hall. Mara adjusted focus, found a heavy-set man in his 40s, sergeant stripes on his sleeve, walking with another soldier. He's the one who checked bodies at Black Ridge? Yeah. She memorized his face, added him to the list of people who owed her blood. Who's with him? Corporal Hayes, the colonel's nephew. Mara's finger tightened on the binoculars. Hayes has family here? Junior, fresh out of basic. Colonel got him assigned here to keep him safe. Fisk paused. Kid doesn't know anything about the operation. You sure? Yeah, Price complains about it. Says the kid's useless, gets in the way. Leverage. Mara filed that away. They spent 2 days planning. Fisk provided intelligence, guard schedules, armory locations, comm protocols. Bishop worked out angles of attack, exfil routes, contingencies. Mara just focused on staying conscious. The fever was getting worse. She was burning through antibiotics, but the infection had spread. She could feel it in her blood, slow poison working through her system. She had maybe a week before it killed her. Long enough. The night before the shipment, Mara made her move. She didn't tell Bishop or Fisk, just slipped away while they slept, moved down the ridge toward the base. Getting inside was easier than getting into Vanguard had been. She'd learned from that. Moved slower. Used the shadows. Found a gap in the fence where erosion had created a blind spot. Inside. The base was quiet. Most personnel were asleep. Mara moved between buildings like a ghost, using skills she'd developed over weeks of living in hostile territory. She found Sergeant Price's quarters. Second floor, corner room. The window was open. Mara climbed the exterior wall. Her chest screamed in protest, but she ignored it. Through the window. Price was asleep, snoring, didn't hear her enter. Mara stood over his bed, rifle pointed at his head. Part of her wanted to just pull the trigger, end it, but she needed him to know. She pressed the muzzle against his temple. Price woke up gasping, eyes wild. Don't move, Mara whispered. Don't scream. Don't do anything but breathe. He froze. You remember Blackridge? She asked. His eyes widened. Recognition. Horror. You checked the bodies, made sure we were all dead. Vance? His voice cracked. I'm the one you missed. She pressed the rifle harder. Tell me why I shouldn't kill you right now. I was following orders.
Everyone says that. Please. Sweat beaded on his forehead. I have kids, a wife. Please. Hayes had a family too. Okoye, Chen. They all had people who loved them. Mara's voice was ice. You left us all to die. We didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. Price was crying now, silent tears running down his face. What do you want? I want you to suffer. I want you to know what it felt like lying in that dirt, listening to you walk away. She leaned closer. But more than that, I want Hayes. I want everyone involved. I'll tell you everything, anything. Just don't. You'll do more than tell me. You're going to help me take them down. How? The shipment tomorrow. You're going to make sure it doesn't happen. You're going to help me seize it, document it, preserve the evidence. They'll kill me. They'll kill you anyway. Hayes doesn't leave witnesses. You know that. Price's breathing was ragged. What if I refuse? Then I put a bullet in your brain right now and find someone else to help me. She wasn't bluffing. They both knew it. Okay, Price whispered. Okay, I'll help. Mara lowered the rifle slightly. Good. Now get dressed. We have work to do. 20 minutes later, they were in the base armory. Price had keys, access codes, inside enough weapons to equip a small army, and enough evidence to bury Hayes' operation permanently. Mara photographed everything, serial numbers, shipping manifests, procurement orders, all of it falsified, all of it pointing back to the same network. Where's the shipment now? She asked. Storage facility, east side of the base, under guard. How many? 4 men. All clean. They don't know what they're guarding. Can you get me in? Price nodded. I'm senior NCO. They'll defer to me. Then let's go. They moved through the base. Price led. Mara followed 3 steps behind, rifle ready. If he tried anything, she'd drop him. But he didn't try anything, just walked like a man heading to his execution. The storage facility was a reinforced warehouse. 4 guards outside like Price had said. They snapped to attention when they saw him. Sergeant, one of them said, wasn't expecting an inspection. Colonel's orders, Price said smoothly, wants eyes on the shipment before tomorrow. Yes, Sergeant. They unlocked the door. Inside, crates, dozens of them. M4 rifles, ammunition, grenades, anti-tank weapons. American military hardware, all of it earmarked for people who'd use it to kill Americans. Mara felt sick. Document everything, she told Price. Every serial number, every crate, The door burst open. Mara spun, rifle up. Bishop and Fisk came through, weapons ready. They stopped short when they saw her. What the hell are you doing? Bishop demanded. Working. You said we'd move together. You said... I lied. Mara turned back to the crates. Now help me or get out. Bishop stared at her. You're burning yourself out. Look at you. You can barely stand. I'm fine. You're dying. The infection? I said I'm fine. The shout tore something in her chest. Fresh pain, fresh blood seeping through her shirt. Silence. Bishop's expression shifted. Not anger. Something sadder. You know you can't save them, right? He said quietly. Hayes, Okoye, Chen, they're gone. Nothing you do will bring them back. I know. Then what's this about? Mara looked at him, at the concern in his eyes, at Fisk, standing behind him, looking uncomfortable, at Price, terrified and complicit. It's about making sure they didn't die for nothing, she said. It's about making the people who killed them pay. And it's about... She stopped. About what? About being worth saving. The words came out quieter than she intended. I lived. They died. And if I don't do this, if I don't finish it, then what was the point? The point is you survived. Surviving isn't enough. It has to be. No. Mara shook her head. It doesn't. Bishop looked like he wanted to argue, but footsteps outside stopped him. Multiple contacts. Moving fast. Someone raised the alarm, Fisk hissed. The guards they'd passed, one of them must have gotten suspicious, called it in. Mara moved to the door, peered through the crack. 20 soldiers, at least, surrounding the warehouse. They were trapped. A loudspeaker crackled. This is Colonel Hayes. You're surrounded. Come out with your hands up and you will not be harmed. Mara almost laughed. Hayes himself. He'd flown in from Vanguard. This was it, the endgame. What do we do? Fisk asked. Mara looked around the warehouse, at the crates of weapons, at the 3 men who'd become her unlikely allies, at the evidence she'd gathered.
She thought about Blackridge, about being left to die, about clawing her way back to life through sheer stubborn will. She thought about the girl she'd been before, the medic who saved lives, who believed in the system, who trusted her brothers and sisters in arms. That girl was dead. What remained was someone who'd learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes the only justice you get is the justice you take. "We finish it," Mara said. She pulled a crate open, started handing out weapons. "What are you doing?" Bishop asked. "What I should have done at Blackridge." Mara loaded a fresh magazine, chambered around. "I'm fighting back." Outside, Hayes's voice came again. "You have 60 seconds, then we're coming in." Mara looked at Bishop, at Fisk, at Price. "Anyone who wants to walk away, now's your chance. I won't stop you." None of them moved. "Okay then." She took a breath. "Let's show them what it costs to leave someone for dead." The first grenade came through the window 40 seconds later. Mara saw it arc through the air in what felt like slow motion. She dove left, Bishop went right, Fisk and Price scattered. The explosion was deafening in the enclosed space. Shrapnel tore through wooden crates, punched holes in the corrugated metal walls. Mara's ears rang, vision swimming. Before the smoke cleared, the assault began. Flashbangs first, 3 of them, bang, 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 in rapid succession. White light. Overwhelming noise, disorientation. Then the door blew inward. Mara rolled behind a crate, rifle up, firing blind through the smoke. Heard someone scream, kept firing. Bishop was on her left. Controlled bursts, professional. Fisk on the right, panicked spraying. Price had taken cover behind a forklift, wasn't shooting at all. The incoming fire was intense, overwhelming. 20 soldiers outside, all of them trained, all of them pissed. This wasn't going to work. Mara's magazine ran dry. She dropped it, slammed a fresh one home, fired again. A soldier came through the smoke, weapon up. Mara shot him twice. He went down. Another one right behind him. Bishop got that one. But they kept coming. "We can't hold this," Fisk shouted over the gunfire. Mara knew he was right. They were pinned, outgunned, running out of ammunition. This wasn't a fight they could win. But she hadn't survived Blackridge by accepting defeat. "Price," she yelled.
"The crates. Are they all weapons?" "What?" He couldn't hear her over the chaos. "The crates. What else is in them?"
"Ammunition. Explosives. Why?" Mara smiled. Not nice. Not friendly. "Everyone get to the back wall. Now!" Bishop understood immediately. Started moving, laying down covering fire. Fisk followed, slower, confused. Mara grabbed Price by his vest, dragged him. "Move!" They made it to the back wall, reinforced concrete, the only solid cover in the building. Mara pulled a thermite grenade from her belt, one of the ones she'd taken from the crates. "What are you doing?" Fisk's eyes were wide. "Changing the game!" Mara pulled the pin, threw it into the center of the warehouse, right where the ammunition crates were stacked. "You're insane!" Price screamed. "Yeah, I've heard that." She counted. 3 seconds. 4. The thermite ignited with a white-hot fury that turned the warehouse into hell. The heat was instantaneous, overwhelming. The ammunition started cooking off immediately, rounds detonating in chains, hundreds per second. And then the real explosives went up. The blast lifted Mara off her feet, slammed her into the concrete wall. Her vision went white, then black, then red. She couldn't hear anything except a high-pitched whine. When her senses came back, the warehouse was gone. Just gone. Where there had been walls and a roof, now there was fire and twisted metal and smoke rising into the night sky like a funeral pyre. Mara lay on her back in the rubble, staring at stars through the smoke. Her body felt like it had been run through a shredder. The wound in her chest was definitely open again. She could feel blood pooling under her. But she was alive. Movement to her left. Bishop, crawling through debris, coughing. Beyond him, Fisk, bloodied but moving. Price was slumped against a chunk of concrete, unconscious or dead. And past the wreckage, shadows in the firelight. Hayes's assault team, scattered by the blast. Some down, some stunned, some recovering. But not dead. Not all of them. Mara tried to stand, made it to her knees before her legs gave out. "Don't move." A voice from behind. Female. Controlled. Mara froze. Footsteps crunched through debris. A figure moved into her peripheral vision. Woman, mid-30s, captain's bars on her collar. Captain Webb. Mara remembered her from the files. Logistics officer. One of Hayes's inner circle. Webb's pistol was pointed at Mara's head. "You've caused a lot of trouble, Lieutenant." "Not a lieutenant anymore. You people made sure of that." Yeah, we did. Webb kicked Mara's rifle away. Hands on your head. Mara complied. Slowly. Her arms felt like lead. Webb keyed her radio. Colonel, I have her. Northeast corner of the blast site. A static. Then Hayes's voice, rough with smoke. Alive. For now. Keep her that way. I'm coming to you. Webb clicked off, kept her weapon steady. You should have stayed dead, Vance. So I've been told. You had to know this was how it would end. One person against the whole network? What did you think would happen? I thought I'd take as many of you with me as possible. Noble. Stupid, but noble. Webb glanced at Bishop and Fisk, both being zip-tied by soldiers who'd recovered from the blast. You corrupted those two. Bishop was a good soldier before you got to him. Bishop's a survivor, like me. Bishop's a traitor, like you. Mara almost laughed. I'm the traitor? You're selling weapons to people who kill Americans. We're ensuring strategic flexibility in an evolving geopolitical landscape. That's a nice way of saying you're war profiteers. Webb's expression didn't change. Call it what you want. The fact is, we've made more difference with those back-channel relationships than 100 conventional operations. Peace isn't built on ideals, Lieutenant. It's built on leverage. Is that what Hayes tells you? That you're building peace? Hayes tells me the truth. That wars end, alliances shift, and the people smart enough to adapt are the ones who survive. She smiled, thin and cold. You should understand that. Survival. Adaptation. You've gotten good at it. Not good enough, apparently. No, not quite. Colonel Hayes appeared through the smoke like a ghost materializing. His left arm was in a makeshift sling from where Mara had shot him at Vanguard, but his eyes were sharp, alert, alive with something that looked like satisfaction. Lieutenant Vance! He stopped 5 feet away, studying her. You're a hard woman to kill. You should have made sure the first time. I should have. My mistake. He gestured at the burning wreckage. This is quite the mess you've made. You realize you just destroyed $40 million in inventory? Good. Hayes actually smiled. You still don't get it, do you? This doesn't stop anything. We have other shipments, other routes, other suppliers. You blew up one warehouse. So what? It's a setback. Nothing more. I've got your files, the evidence. Everything. Had, past tense. Hayes held up a melted piece of plastic and metal. The USB drive, warped beyond recognition. Found this in the rubble. I assume this was your insurance policy? Mara's stomach dropped. The explosion destroyed it, Hayes continued, along with most of the physical documentation, the computer servers, the paper trail. He tossed the ruined drive aside. Congratulations. You just eliminated the evidence you needed to expose us. There are copies. Where? Hidden in the jungle? Uploaded to some server? Hayes shook his head. Even if there are, you won't live long enough to retrieve them. And without you alive to explain the context, to testify, to connect the dots, it's just raw data. Meaningless. He was right. Mara knew he was right. She'd been so focused on gathering evidence, on building her case, that she hadn't thought through what happened if the evidence got destroyed. So what now? She asked. You kill me? For real this time? That would be the smart play. Hayes tilted his head, considering. But I'm curious. What were you hoping to accomplish? Really? You had to know you couldn't win. I wasn't trying to win. I was trying to make you pay. For Blackridge? For all of it. The corruption, the betrayal, the lives you traded for money. Noble sentiments, but ultimately pointless. Hayes glanced at Webb. Get her up. I want to show her something. Webb hauled Mara to her feet. Her legs barely supported her weight. The blood loss was catching up. The infection. The accumulated damage from weeks of running and fighting and surviving on nothing but anger. Hayes led them through the wreckage to where a group of soldiers had assembled. Not the assault team. These were different. Cleaner uniforms, official insignia, military police. What, Mara started. You thought I was operating without oversight? Hayes smiled. Lieutenant, I've got friends all the way up the chain. Generals, politicians, people who understand that the official channels move too slow, that sometimes you need to work outside the rules to get things done. He gestured at the MPs. These men are here to take you into custody. Officially, you're a deserter who went insane after Blackridge, killed several soldiers, destroyed military property. You'll be tried, convicted, and sent to Leavenworth for the rest of your life. And the truth? The truth is whatever I say it is. Mara looked at the MPs. At their blank professional faces, they didn't know, or didn't care, just following orders, like Bishop had been, like everyone had been. "You can't bury this forever," she said. "I don't need forever, just long enough." Hayes nodded to Webb. "Take her to the holding." "Colonel!" A voice from the perimeter, panicked. "We have incoming." Hayes spun. "What?" "Helicopters. Multiple contacts, coming in fast." The sound reached them a moment later. Rotor wash, heavy birds, lots of them. Hayes's face went pale. "That's not... They can't be..." The first helicopter appeared over the ridgeline. Blackhawk, no markings. Spotlight sweeping the ground. Then another. And another. 6 of them, forming a perimeter around the base. The voice that came over the loudspeaker wasn't military, wasn't Hayes's people. "This is Special Agent Morrison, Defense Criminal Investigative Service. This facility is now under federal jurisdiction. All personnel will lay down your weapons and submit to detention. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." DCIS, the Pentagon's investigators. How... Mara looked around wildly, saw Bishop zip-tied on the ground, grinning through a split lip. He winked at her. Understanding crashed over her. The radio they'd taken from the convoy. Bishop had been monitoring it, using it. He'd called them in. Hayes realized it at the same moment. His face twisted with rage. "You..." "Yeah," Bishop said. "Me. Uploaded all the files from Fisk's phone to a secure server 3 days ago. Sent coordinates, evidence dumps, everything to DCIS, FBI, IG, every oversight agency I could find." He smiled wider. "You were right, Colonel. Evidence without context is meaningless, but evidence with coordinates, timestamps, and testimony, that's a case. You had no authority. I had truth. Turns out that's worth more." Hayes pulled his sidearm, pointed it at Bishop's head. "You just killed yourself." "Maybe, but I'm taking you with me." The DCIS agents were fast roping down from the helicopters now, dozens of them, armed, moving with precision. Hayes's assault team looked at each other. Some raised their hands. Others ran. A few opened fire. The DCIS response was immediate and overwhelming. Suppression fire. Non-lethal takedowns where possible. Lethal where necessary. It was over in 90 seconds. Hayes stood in the center of it all, guns still pointed at Bishop, surrounded by federal agents with weapons trained on him. "Drop it!" Morrison's voice amplified. "Last warning!" For a moment, Mara thought Hayes would do it, would pull the trigger, go out in a blaze of defiant violence. But he was a survivor, too. He lowered the gun, let it fall. The agents moved in, cuffed him, cuffed Webb, started rounding up everyone associated with the operation. Morrison approached Mara, tall, African-American, eyes sharp behind wire-frame glasses. "Lieutenant Vance." "Not a lieutenant anymore." "Yeah, you are. You were never officially KIA. We checked. The death certificate was filed but never processed through proper channels. You're still active duty." He gestured to a medic. "Let's get you patched up." "How did you... When did..." "Your boy Bishop sent us everything 2 days ago. We've been building the case, getting authorization, assembling teams. The explosion tonight accelerated our timeline." Morrison studied her. "You've been busy." "I've been surviving." "Yeah, I can see that." He looked at the burning warehouse, the dead and wounded scattered across the compound. "Quite a body count you've accumulated." "Self-defense." "All of it?" Mara met his eyes, didn't blink. "Every single death." Morrison held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded. "We'll sort it out. But right now you need medical attention. You look like you're about to collapse." He wasn't wrong. Mara's vision was tunneling again. The adrenaline that had kept her moving was fading, leaving only exhaustion and pain. The medic caught her as she started to fall. She woke up in a hospital, clean white walls, beeping monitors, IV in her arm. For a moment, panic seized her, trapped, vulnerable. She tried to sit up. Easy. A hand on her shoulder, gentle but firm. Mara turned her head, saw a woman in army uniform, Major's oak leaves, medical insignia. "You're safe," the major said. "You're at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center, Germany. You've been here for 3 days. You nearly died. Again. The infection had spread to your bloodstream, sepsis. We had to do emergency surgery to debride the wound." The major smiled slightly. "But you're stubborn. You pulled through." Mara's hand went to her chest, found bandages. Clean, professional. Proper medical care for the first time since Blackridge. "Bishop?" she asked. "He's fine. In custody, but fine. He's cooperating with the investigation. Fisk? Price? Also alive. Also talking. The major paused. You know you're a hero, right? I'm not. Yes, you are. You exposed the biggest corruption scandal in military history. 47 people arrested so far, including 2 generals and a congressman. Hundreds of millions in illegal arms sales shut down. You did that. I just wanted them to pay for what they did. Well, they will. Hayes is looking at life in Leavenworth. Most of his network, too. The major's expression softened. But what about you? What do you want? Mara hadn't thought about that. Hadn't thought past revenge, past survival, past making the people who'd betrayed her suffer. I don't know, she admitted. You've got time to figure it out. For now, just focus on healing. But healing turned out to be harder than fighting. The physical wounds closed. The infection cleared. Within 2 weeks, Mara was mobile again, walking the hospital corridors under her own power. The other wounds, the ones that didn't show, those didn't heal as easily. She had nightmares. Blackridge playing on repeat. The explosion, the blood, Bishop's light on her face, the sound of boots walking away. She'd wake up gasping, reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. The doctors called it PTSD, gave her medication, scheduled therapy sessions. Mara went to one session, walked out after 15 minutes. What was she supposed to say? That she'd spent weeks hunting and killing people? That she'd become good at it? That some part of her had enjoyed it? The therapist wouldn't understand. Nobody would. On the 4th week, Special Agent Morrison came to visit. You look better, he said. I feel like a corpse that forgot to lie down. That's improvement from when we found you. He pulled up a chair. We need to talk about what happens next. Am I being charged? That's complicated. You killed 17 people over the course of 4 weeks. By any measure, that's significant. Self-defense. Some of them, yes. The guards at Vanguard, the assault team at Quezon, clear cases. But others? Morrison pulled out a file. The convoy ambush, the supply truck, FOB grinder. Those were premeditated attacks. They were military targets. You weren't on a military operation. You were a lone actor conducting a vendetta against people who tried to kill me. Morrison sighed. Look, I'm not unsympathetic. What happened to you at Blackridge was wrong, criminal, but the way you responded. What should I have done? Turn myself into the same system that buried me? Trusted the chain of command that was corrupt to its core? You should have come to us, DCIS, FBI, IG, someone outside the military chain. And told you what? That I was officially dead? That I had no evidence except my word against a decorated colonel? How long before Hayes found out I was alive and made sure I disappeared permanently? Morrison didn't have an answer to that. I did what I had to do to survive, Mara continued. And if that means I'm a criminal now, fine, court-martial me. But don't tell me I should have trusted a system that failed me. The system is fixing itself now. Because I forced it to. Silence. Finally, Morrison spoke. There's going to be a hearing. Article 32 investigation, standard procedure. They'll review the evidence, take testimony, decide if there's grounds for court-martial. When? 2 months, maybe 3. Until then, you're confined to this facility. Under guard. I'm a prisoner. You're a person of interest in an ongoing investigation. Morrison stood. For what it's worth, I'm recommending clemency. What you did, exposing the corruption, that matters, but I can't promise anything. He left. Mara stared at the ceiling, processing. She'd survived Blackridge, survived the jungle, survived Hayes's network. Now she had to survive the aftermath. 2 months became 3, then 4. The Article 32 hearing kept getting delayed. More evidence, more testimony. The investigation kept expanding as they uncovered deeper levels of corruption. Mara stayed in the hospital, officially recovering, unofficially imprisoned. Bishop came to visit once. They let him into the visitor's room under guard. He was still technically in custody too, though they'd moved him to less restrictive confinement. You look good, he said. You're a terrible liar. He laughed, small, tired. Yeah, I am. He sat down. They're offering me a deal. Immunity for full cooperation. You should take it. I will, but I wanted to say I'm sorry for Blackridge, for leaving you. You already apologized, at Vanguard. I know, but I meant it more now. He looked at his hands. I've had a lot of time to think about what we did, what I did. And I can't justify it anymore. Orders or no orders, you would have died too. Maybe, but at least I could have died clean. He met her eyes. You saved my life multiple times. I just wanted you to know, whatever happens at your hearing, I'm testifying for you. Full support. That might not help, might make things worse. I don't care. It's the right thing to do. They sat in silence for a while. What are you going to do? Mara asked. After, when this is over. I don't know. Disappear, probably. New name, new life. Try to forget I was ever Sergeant Bishop. He paused. What about you? I don't know either. You ever think about going back to being a medic? Every day. Mara's hand drifted to her chest, to the scars beneath her shirt. But I can't. That person, she died at Black Ridge. Maybe she just changed. Into what? Bishop didn't answer. The hearing finally convened in month 5. They held it at a military tribunal facility in Germany. Closed proceedings, classified material, national security concerns. Mara walked in wearing Class A uniform, ribbons and badges she'd earned over 8 years of service. Combat medic badge. Purple Heart. Good conduct medals. The symbols of who she'd been before. The panel consisted of 3 colonels and a general, career officers, all of them, looking at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to disapproval. The prosecution laid out its case. 17 confirmed kills, destruction of military property, unauthorized operations, conspiracy. The list went on. Then the defense, they brought in Bishop, Fisk, even Price, who'd recovered from his injuries. All of them testified about Hayes's network, the corruption, the attempted murder of survivors. They brought in Morrison, who detailed the investigation, the evidence, the scope of the criminal enterprise. They brought in testimony from soldiers whose lives Mara had saved over her career, dozens of them. Statements, video recordings, sworn affidavits. The hearing lasted 3 days. On the 4th day, the panel rendered its decision. Lieutenant Vance, please rise. Mara stood. Her legs were steady. Her hands didn't shake. The general, a woman in her 60s, silver hair, 3 stars, looked at her over reading glasses. This panel has reviewed the evidence and testimony. What you did, what you had to do to survive and expose the corruption at Black Ridge, represents both the best and worst of military service. She paused. You showed exceptional courage, resourcefulness, and determination. You also showed excessive violence, disregard for established protocols, and a willingness to operate outside military law. Mara didn't respond, just waited. However, given the extraordinary circumstances, this panel finds that your actions, while technically in violation of military code, were justified by necessity and ultimately served the interests of justice. The general removed her glasses. All charges are dismissed. You are hereby reinstated to active duty with full rank and honors. The room was silent. Mara felt nothing, not relief, not victory, just exhaustion. Furthermore, the general continued, in recognition of your service and sacrifice, you are hereby awarded the Silver Star for Valor Under Fire and the Defense Distinguished Service Medal for exposing systematic corruption. More medals. More ribbons. They didn't feel like prizes. They felt like reminders. Do you have anything to say, Lieutenant? Mara thought about it, about everything she'd lost, everything she'd become. Permission to resign my commission, she said. The general's eyebrows rose. You're choosing to leave the service? Yes, ma'am. May I ask why? Because I can't be a medic anymore. And if I can't save lives, I don't belong in uniform. The general studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Permission granted. You'll be processed for honorable discharge within 30 days. She stood, dismissed. Mara saluted, turned, walked out. Bishop was waiting in the hallway. You did it. You won. No, Mara said. I survived. That's different. What are you going to do now? I don't know yet. But that was a lie. She knew exactly what she was going to do. She was going to disappear. Find somewhere quiet. Somewhere far from bases and uniforms and the weight of what she'd done. Find out if the person who'd crawled out of Black Ridge could ever be whole again. Or if she was always going to be the woman they'd left for dead, who came back with a rifle and never really put it down. The discharge papers came through on a Tuesday. Mara sat in a sterile processing office at Ramstein Air Base, signing form after form. Each signature felt like erasing a piece of herself. Service record, medical history, benefits documentation. The bureaucratic dismantling of Lieutenant Mara Vance. The clerk processing her paperwork was a specialist, maybe 20 years old, kept sneaking glances at the ribbons on Mara's chest. "Silver Star, huh?" he finally said. "Must have done something pretty intense. Something like that. What was it? If you don't mind me asking." Mara looked at him. At his clean uniform, his unblemished face, a kid who'd probably never heard a shot fired in anger. "I survived," she said. She signed the last form. The clerk stamped it, filed it, handed her a manila envelope. "That's it. You're officially civilian as of 0800 tomorrow." He hesitated. "Thank you for your service, ma'am." The words felt hollow, scripted. Mara nodded and left. She had 24 hours before her flight to the States. 24 hours to figure out what came next. She spent the first 6 in her room, staring at the ceiling. The knock came just before noon. Mara opened the door to find Bishop standing there, wearing civilian clothes. Jeans, a flannel shirt. He looked wrong without the uniform. Smaller, somehow. "Heard you were shipping out tomorrow," he said. "Yeah." "Mind if I come in?" Mara stepped aside. Bishop entered, looked around the sparse room. Duffel bag in the corner, civilian clothes laid out on the bed. The sum total of her possessions. "Traveling light," he observed. "Don't need much." "Where are you headed?" "Haven't decided yet." Bishop sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm going to Thailand. Got a buddy who runs a dive shop in Phuket. Says he can use help." He smiled, tired. "Figure learning to breathe underwater might be good practice for starting over." "Sounds nice. Come with me." Mara turned to look at him. "What?" "Come with me. To Thailand. We've been through hell together. We know each other's worst moments. Maybe that's a foundation for something." He shrugged. "Or maybe I just don't want to disappear alone." "Bishop, I know you want to be alone. I get it. But..." He stopped, started again. "You saved my life multiple times. Let me try to save yours." "I don't need saving." "Yeah, you do. You just don't know it yet." He stood, moved closer. "You're walking around like the living dead, Mara. Going through the motions. But you're not here. Not really." "I'm fine." "You're lying. To me, to yourself, to everyone." His voice dropped. "I see you, the nightmares, the way you check corners, the way your hand goes for a weapon that isn't there. You're still at war." "I don't know how to not be." The admission came out quieter than she intended, more honest. Bishop's expression softened. "Then let me help you figure it out. No pressure, no expectations, just company, someone who understands." Mara wanted to say yes. Wanted the easy path, the companionship, the chance to not be alone. But she'd learned something over the past months. Something fundamental. She needed to be alone. Needed to figure out who she was without the anger, without the mission, without the drive for revenge. "I can't," she said. "Not yet." Bishop nodded slowly. "Okay, but when you're ready, if you're ever ready, here's how to find me." He pulled out a piece of paper, scribbled an email address. No obligation, just an option. He left the paper on the bed and walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. "For what it's worth," he said, "I think you're going to be okay. You're the strongest person I've ever met." "I'm not strong. I'm just stubborn." "Sometimes that's the same thing." The door closed behind him. Mara picked up the paper, stared at the email address, then folded it carefully and tucked it into her wallet. Maybe someday, but not today. The flight to the States was 14 hours. Mara spent most of it staring out the window, watching clouds pass below. She'd requested assignment to Dover Air Force Base for final out processing. It was close to where she'd grown up, Maryland, a small town that probably didn't remember her anymore. But there was someone there she needed to see. The cab dropped her at a cemetery just outside town. Small, quiet. Old graves mixed with new. Mara walked through the rows until she found what she was looking for. A headstone. Fresh. The grass around it still settling. Corporal James Hayes, beloved son and soldier. He gave all. The irony wasn't lost on her. Hayes, the kid she'd been trying to save when the mortar hit. His death had been filed as KYA at Blackridge. Honorable, heroic. His family would never know the real reason he died. The corruption, the gun running, the deliberate abandonment. They'd gotten to bury their son. Had closure. Mara didn't know how to feel about that. She stood there for a long time trying to find words, an apology maybe, or an explanation. But nothing came.
I tried to save you, she finally said to the stone, for whatever that's worth. The stone didn't answer. Mara turned to leave and nearly walked into someone. A woman, mid-50s, carrying flowers. She had Hayes's eyes. I'm sorry, Mara said. I didn't mean to. You knew my son? The woman's voice was soft, hopeful. Mara hesitated. I was his medic at Blackridge. The woman's eyes filled with tears. You were there? When he... I was. Mara's throat tightened. I tried. I did everything I could, but the wound was too severe. Wasn't entirely a lie. She had tried. Right up until the world exploded. The woman reached out, grabbed Mara's hand. Thank you for being with him, for trying. The tears spilled over. They told me he didn't suffer, that it was quick. Was that true? Mara thought about the mortar, the white light, the immediate obliteration. Yes, she said. It was quick. Another lie, but a kind one. The woman squeezed her hand. Thank you. You don't know, having someone who was there, who tried to save him, it means everything. Mara wanted to tell her the truth, wanted to explain that her son's death had been part of something corrupt and terrible, that people had profited from it, that justice had been served, eventually, but it didn't bring anyone back. But what good would that do? What purpose would it serve except to shatter this woman's grief into something worse? He was brave, Mara heard herself say. At the end, he was brave. She didn't remember if that was true, but it could have been. The woman smiled through her tears. He always was, even as a boy. Always the first one to help someone, to step up. They stood together for a few more minutes. Then the woman thanked her again, placed her flowers, and left. Mara stayed. She thought about all the lies she'd told. To Hayes's mother, to herself, to everyone who asked about Blackridge. She thought about the truth, ugly, complicated, impossible to explain. And she realized that maybe survival wasn't about choosing between truth and lies. Maybe it was about choosing which truths mattered and which ones only caused more pain. The thought should have felt like capitulation, like moral compromise. Instead, it felt like release. She left the cemetery as the sun was setting, golden light washing over the headstones, making everything look peaceful. Mara knew it was an illusion. Death wasn't peaceful, war wasn't noble, and survival came at a cost that never stopped collecting. But maybe that was okay. Maybe carrying the weight was the price of still being alive. The processing at Dover took 3 days. Medical clearances, financial settlements, final briefings. They offered her counseling again. She declined again. On the last day, she got a message. Someone wanted to see her. The address led to a small office building off base. Government contractor, the sign said. Vague and meaningless. Inside, Special Agent Morrison was waiting. Lieutenant? He said, then caught himself. Sorry, Ms. Vance. Still getting used to it myself. Mara sat down. What's this about? Wanted to give you an update. On Hayes and the others. I thought that was done. The arrests were done. The justice is still happening. Morrison pulled out a file. Hayes pled guilty. Life in Leavenworth, no parole. Webb took a deal, 20 years. Carver Fisk, most of the others are looking at similar sentences. And the generals, the politicians? Morrison's expression darkened. 2 generals forced into retirement, 1 congressman under investigation. But they'll probably walk. The higher you go, the more insulated people are, the more lawyers they can afford. We're still building cases, but yeah, some of them will probably escape real consequences. Mara had expected that, still tasted like bile. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you deserve to know, and because... Morrison hesitated. Because we want to offer you something. I'm not re-enlisting. Not that. A job. Consulting work. We're building a task force specifically to investigate military corruption. Someone with your experience, your insights, you'd be invaluable. You want me to hunt more corrupt officers. I want you to help us prevent what happened to you from happening to anyone else. Mara considered it. Another mission, another fight, another chance to make the people who failed her pay. It was tempting, but it was also a trap, a way to stay locked in anger in the past, in the identity of someone wronged seeking revenge. No, she said. Morrison looked surprised. You sure? The pay's good, the work matters. I'm sure. Mara stood. I spent months hunting people, making them pay.
And it didn't fix anything. Didn't bring my friends back. Didn't make me whole. She met his eyes. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not angry, when I'm not fighting. And if you don't like who that is, then at least I'll know. Morrison nodded slowly. I understand, but the offer stands. If you change your mind, I won't. She left him there with his files and his offers of purpose, walked out into the Maryland afternoon, and realized she had nowhere to go, no mission, no orders, no enemy to hunt, just herself and whatever came next. The apartment she found was in a small town called Ash Hollow, 3 hours west of Dover. Population, maybe 2,000. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where nothing much happened. Perfect. The place was small. 1 bedroom, kitchen barely bigger than a closet, a view of mountains in the distance. The landlord was a woman in her 70s who asked no questions when Mara paid 6 months up front in cash. You military? She asked, eyeing Mara's posture. Was. Well, welcome home then. Home. The word felt foreign. Mara moved in with her duffel bag and nothing else. Spent the first week doing nothing. Just sleeping, eating when she remembered, staring at walls. The nightmares came every night. Black Ridge, the explosions, the faces of men she'd killed. She'd wake up gasping, reaching for weapons that weren't there. On the 8th day, she forced herself out of the apartment. The town had 1 main street, post office, general store, diner, bar. She went to the diner because she hadn't eaten in 20 hours and her hands were shaking. The waitress was young, early 20s, with a name tag that said Emma. What can I get you, hun? Mara stared at the menu. The choices felt overwhelming. Too many options. Coffee, she managed. And whatever's good. Emma smiled. Meatloaf solid today. Comes with mashed potatoes and green beans. Sure. The food came. Mara ate mechanically, tasting nothing. She became a regular at the diner. Went there every morning for coffee, every evening for whatever Emma recommended. It gave her day's structure. Something to anchor to. Emma was friendly but not invasive. Asked general questions, where Mara was from, what brought her to Ash Hollow, but didn't push when Mara gave vague answers. On the 3rd week, Emma said, We're short-staffed if you're looking for work. Just serving tables, nothing fancy, but it pays. Mara almost said no, then realized she had nothing else to do. Okay. The work was simple. Take orders, deliver food, refill coffee. She was terrible at it initially. Too formal, too controlled, couldn't make small talk. But she got better. Learned to smile when customers made jokes. Learned to remember names. Learned to exist in a world where the biggest crisis was whether the kitchen had run out of pie. It was strange, surreal. It was also healing, in a way she hadn't expected. 2 months in, a kid came to the diner with his mother, maybe 7 years old, crying, clutching his arm. What happened? Emma asked. Fell off his bike, the mother said, looking harried. I think it's just scraped, but... Mara was moving before she thought about it. Let me see. She knelt down, gently examined the boy's arm. Abrasions, no fracture. She could tell in seconds from the way he moved the lack of deformity. It's not broken, she said, just scraped up. You got a first aid kit? Emma produced one. Mara cleaned the wound, applied antibiotic ointment, wrapped it in gauze. Her hands moved automatically, muscle memory from 8 years of battlefield medicine. When she was done, the boy had stopped crying. There you go, tough guy. Good as new. The mother thanked her profusely, asked if Mara was a nurse. Something like that, Mara said. After they left, Emma looked at her. That was impressive. Just basic first aid. No, you knew exactly what you were doing. Like you'd done it 1,000 times. Mara didn't answer, but Emma was right. She had done it 1,000 times, in dusty outposts and burning vehicles, in the field under fire. Saving lives had been who she was. Maybe it still could be. The next day, she went to the local clinic. Small operation, 1 doctor, serving the whole town and surrounding area. Dr. Sarah Chen was in her 50s, perpetually exhausted, desperately in need of help. You have medical training? She asked when Mara inquired about work. Combat medic, 8 years. No civilian license, though. Can you start Monday? It wasn't quite the same as being a medic. She couldn't prescribe, couldn't diagnose officially, but she could assist, could teach people basic care, could make a difference in small ways. The first patient she helped was an elderly farmer with a laceration from barbed wire. She cleaned it, sutured it, bandaged it. Her hands didn't shake once. Dr. Chen watched, impressed. You're good at this. I used to be. You still are. The work filled something in Mara. Not the hole left by Blackridge, that would probably never fully close, but it gave her purpose beyond anger, beyond survival. She started sleeping better. Not great, the nightmares still came, but less frequently, less intense. She started remembering things from before Blackridge, before the war. Remembered why she joined the army in the first place. To help people. To make a difference. That person hadn't died. She'd just been buried under trauma and rage. Maybe she could excavate her. 6 months after arriving in Ash Hollow, Mara got a letter. Official military stationery. She almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won. Inside was a notification. Colonel Hayes had died in prison. Massive heart attack. He was 62. Also in the envelope, a personal note, handwritten. Ms. Vance, I thought you should know. Hayes never showed remorse. Maintained his innocence until the end. Said he was a patriot making hard choices. But on his last day, he asked to speak with a chaplain, told him he had nightmares. About a woman he left to die. Said her face haunted him. I don't know if that means anything to you, but I thought you'd want to know that he didn't die easy. Morrison. Mara read it twice, then put it back in the envelope. She felt nothing, no satisfaction, no vindication, just a tired acknowledgement that Hayes was gone and the world kept turning. She threw the letter away. That night, for the first time since Blackridge, she slept through without nightmares. A year passed, then another. Mara became part of Ash Hollow's landscape, the quiet woman who worked at the clinic, who helped with emergencies, who didn't talk much about her past but showed up when people needed her. She made a friend in Dr. Chen, tentative at first, then genuine. They had lunch together sometimes, talked about medicine, about life, about nothing in particular. Mara started teaching a first aid class at the community center. Just basic stuff, CPR, wound care, what to do in emergencies. Small groups, mostly parents and teenagers. She was good at it. Patient, clear, competent. One of her students was a high school girl named Maya. 17, smart, asking questions that went beyond the curriculum. After one class, Maya approached her. Were you in the military? Yeah. Combat? Yeah. Did you? Maya hesitated. Did you ever have to hurt people to save others? Mara studied her. Saw something in the girl's eyes, a hunger for truth, for understanding. Yes, she said. How do you live with that? It was the question Mara had been asking herself for 2 years. Honestly, she said, some days I don't know. Some days I wake up and I'm right back there making those choices. And I wonder if I'm a hero or a monster. What do you decide? That maybe I'm both. Maybe we all are. Maybe being human means carrying contradictions and learning to live with them. Maya absorbed that. Do you regret it? What you did? Mara thought about Blackridge, about the 17 people she'd killed, about Hayes dying in prison haunted by her face. I regret that it was necessary, she said carefully. But I don't regret surviving, and I don't regret fighting for justice, even if the way I fought was complicated. Would you do it again? I hope I never have to find out. Maya nodded slowly. Thank you for being honest. That's all I know how to be anymore. On the 3rd anniversary of her discharge, Mara took a day off, drove to a lake an hour outside town, sat on the shore and thought about everything that had happened, everyone she'd lost, everyone she'd become. She thought about Lieutenant Mara Vance, the medic who believed in the mission. She thought about the survivor who crawled out of Blackridge filled with rage. She thought about the woman who'd learned to kill without hesitation. And she thought about who she was now, still carrying all of it, still scarred, but learning to build something new from the wreckage. Her phone buzzed, text from Dr. Chen. Emergency at the clinic. Can you come in? Mara looked at the lake, at the piece she'd been trying to find, then she stood up, got in her car, headed back to town. The emergency was a car accident, 2 victims, 1 critical. Mara worked alongside Dr. Chen for 6 hours, stabilizing, treating, saving lives. When it was over, both victims were stable, going to make it. Dr. Chen looked at her, exhausted. You saved them. You know that? We saved them, together. No, that was you. The way you moved, the decisions you made. That was combat medicine. That was someone who's seen the worst and knows how to fight it. Mara cleaned her hands, looked at the blood washing down the drain. For the first time, it didn't make her think of Blackridge. It made her think of hope. Yeah, she said quietly. Maybe it was. That night, she pulled out the piece of paper Bishop had given her 2 years ago. The email address. She stared at it for a long time. Then she wrote an email. Short, simple. Bishop, I'm okay. Not great, but okay. Still figuring things out. But I wanted you to know I made it through. If you're still in Thailand, save me a spot on that dive boat. Maybe I'll take you up on it someday. Mara. She hit send before she could overthink it. 10 minutes later, a response. Still here, still waiting, come whenever you're ready. Mara smiled, small, genuine. Maybe someday she would. But for now, Ash Hollow was enough. The clinic was enough. The small acts of saving lives, of making a difference, of being more than her worst moments, that was enough. She'd been left for dead, had come back with a rifle, had learned to survive by any means necessary. But surviving wasn't the same as living, and she was finally learning the difference. The scars would never fully fade. The nightmares would probably never completely stop. There would always be a part of her standing in that dirt at Black Ridge, bleeding and abandoned. But there was also a part of her here, now, in Ash Hollow. Teaching kids CPR, helping Dr. Chen save lives, building something new from the pieces of who she'd been. It wasn't redemption. She didn't believe in that anymore. But it was enough. And some days, enough was everything. Mara Vance had been a soldier, a medic, a killer, a survivor. Now she was just someone trying to be better than her worst day. Some mornings, she even succeeded. Sometimes survival isn't about refusing to die, it's about choosing who you become after.